And as co-chairs of the Equity Committee, we'd like to take a moment to thank our generous sponsors, without which tonight's event would not be possible. We'd also like to thank those of you who attended the first event in the series back in January, and those who are joining us for the first time tonight. For this series, was conceived last year. One of the primary objectives was to not only form an understanding of what unconscious bias is and how it affects our perceptions and actions, but to also build a set of tools that we can use to address equity, diversity, and inclusion issues encountered in the workplace and in the profession at large. During our first lecture, staff from AIA National presented the findings of the AIA Diversity in the Profession Architecture Survey and introduced some of the programs and initiatives that are currently being implemented to support the AIA's 2017 Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Statement, which reads as follows. The American Institute of Architects, part of the global community, champions a culture of equity, diversity, and inclusion within the profession of architecture to create a better environment for all. Achieving this vision has a direct impact on the relevance of our profession and the world's prosperity, health, and future. Also during that lecture, we heard from one of the members of the AIA Equity and Architecture Commission on the process that created the Commission's 11 priority recommendations for expanding and strengthening the profession's commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion, also known as EDI, in practice. One of those recommendations was to launch EDI training for AIA volunteers and state and local components with a focus on unconscious training, which leads us to Know Thyself, How Unconscious Biases Persist Despite Our Best Intentions, an interactive implicit bias workshop facilitated by Maureen Linker.
So I just want to introduce Dr. Maureen Linker. She joins us from the University of Michigan, where she is professor of philosophy. She is published in a variety of academic journals and wrote a book titled Intellectual Empathy, Critical Thinking for Social Justice. In addition to teaching, and Dr. Linker has led many workshops, including this one that we're doing tonight, and covering a range of topics such as navigating difficult dialogue, finding common ground throughout intellectual empathy, and managing cultural competency. We're delighted to have her here in Baltimore to lead our implicit bias training. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Maureen Linker.
Thank you so much. I wanted to thank our sponsors for tonight. I also wanted to extend a special thanks to Kathleen and Nathan from AIA Baltimore, and Valerie and Hillary from HCM, and MJ from AIA National. This is the third time I'm working with an AIA-related group, and for me, it's been a great opportunity to learn more about your profession and to do some research in architecture. As a fan of beautiful design, it's a real pleasure for me to get to know more about the work that you're doing. So thank you for having me, and thanks for rescheduling. After we had our initial date, we had a snow and ice storm. So, so it's a real pleasure for me to see that you're all here after a long day of work. So your commitment already is impressive that you're here on a weeknight. So I wanted to begin with the introduction that we already heard. We don't need to go over that, but this is who I am, so that you know who I am. And I wanted to talk a bit about the goals of our work together. And switch over to. Can you hear me? Okay. Now you can? Okay, great. I have to move around. So I just wanted to let you know, before we set out to work together, what it is that we're going to be working on. So there's sort of 4 goals that I have in our work together. The first is identifying factors that contribute to underlying self-awareness. The title of the talk is Know Thyself, which is one of Keith's most famous injunctions in the Republic played rights about Socrates saying all of the challenges we face, and the Republic was really a just society. Out of all the challenges we face, knowing thyself is the greatest. And when I tell it to my students, that they're very puzzled at first, right? Like calculus is a lot harder than knowing thyself, right? But what Socrates meant was that our tendency is to, when it comes to knowledge, to look outward. And we take the lens for looking outward as normal. And it's very hard to actually turn that lens inward to look at the construction of our own beliefs and our own knowledge. So this is an ancient injunction to know that, but one that I think is absolutely relevant in our contemporary society. So we're going to talk a lot tonight about self-understanding and self-awareness. We're going to work on reflecting our social and cultural beliefs. For societies, actively promote self-understanding about cultural differences. And then I hope that the work that we do together, by the end, you'll have some new ideas about creating initiatives that will energize the people you work with around diversity and cultural competence. So I wanted to give you a few reasons why this work matters. My guess is the fact that you're here, you already hear something about it. As a philosopher, I always have to make sure that justifications and reasons. So why are we doing this work? It's important from the point of view of the work that you do. It matters for retaining talent. So looking over the Equity in Architecture Survey from 2016, this quote stood out for me, that respondents are most likely to report a positive work culture if their firm shares their values and if they find their work meaningful. Respondents who felt that their firms failed to prepare them for their work or who report no office friendships were most likely to report a negative work culture. And as I read through that, the idea of friendships like becoming close buddies, but a sense that people had a shared kind of moral compass and that their values were seen and respected and understood. So that is important for the work climate. It also, I think, matters for advancing the profession that you're in. So this was an interview in Parlor Magazine with Diana Griffiths that I read, and she says, theorists tell us men and women look at problems differently, work differently, and value different skills. If we can create a profession where all architects thrive, surely this diversity will broaden how our buildings are designed. It may not be a better world, but it would be a different one. And I, for one, would love to see the results, since it will protect the legacy of the next generation. So again, I think that there are similarities between your profession and profession. So philosophy, there's about 28% of professional philosophers are women, and only about 6% of professional philosophers are people of color. The demographics match in some ways your profession, and I think like philosophers, architects perceive themselves as innovative people, right? Who think outside the box. And so if that's your perception of yourself, then you're already ahead of the curve. And so we have some similar problems in philosophy of people doing really good critical analysis outward, but not the same kind of critical analysis inward. And so I think that I like this quote because there's a way that we could be doing diversity and better by not pretending that it's just about the work. It's about the people who do the work. And when you are a minority in a majority field, your hope is often to just be evaluated for the quality of your work. Right? I remember as a graduate student taking formal logic courses, I didn't want to be a woman. I wanted to be a logician. And of course, it was affecting the dynamics and the culture that I was in, how I was perceived, and how I perceived others. But I thought if I don't bring that in, I can really just judge on the quality of the work. And I think that is something that really smart people do, okay, when they want to work hard. But I think ultimately it's going to get in the way. It will affect the kind of work you're doing.
I just wanted to ask, is that really what she said, that it may not be a better world if the diversity is included?
Yeah, because she was saying, I'm not saying that this is, this is an agenda for the best moral progress. She was saying is, I think that the value is innovation. This is innovative. It's innovative to recognize that who we are and how we design is is playing a role in how we think. I liked it because she wasn't saying, I'm going to give you kind of a rosy every world, but it's going to be more diverse and more varied. And it might not always be comfortable for everyone, but it's already kind of like that without it being explicit. And I think finally, there's value in communicating design and society. And so some of you may know the book Between the World and Me by Thyself. It's a book that he wrote sort of as a letter to his son about the experience of being a black man in the United States. And it's an incredible book. It's won all sorts of awards. But in the book, he says, the full history of our government's relationship with African Americans means turning away from the brightly rendered version of your country as it has always declared itself and turning towards something murky and unknown. And this is a photograph, many of you might recognize it, of the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. that opened up recently. And so I had read that in Thyself's book, and I shared an image of the African American Museum because when I was reading online critiques and reviews of the museum, I came across this quote from Christopher Hawthorne, architecture critic, and he said, "The triumph of the design by A.J. Freelon and their colleagues is that the museum building embodies both something murkier and is turning toward." And if you look at the space, this idea of murkier and something turning toward. And uses the language from Thyself. And I really love the review because I thought it does capture something both murky, unclear, but also something that transcends that, something very beautiful. Again, you will all talk about this much more effectively than I can, but I was really taken with how the language of the critic directly drew from Thyself's work about the experiences of being a Black American. So I think there's really value in understanding the dynamics, the social dynamics in our social history, and sort of facing them head on in how we think about how we think about design, about space itself. So far so good? Yeah. So I wanted to take the opportunity now to do something a bit more interactive. And what it requires is for you to pair up with somebody. And ideally, if you could pair up with somebody that you don't know very well, or somebody that you don't have maybe a longer history with. I'm sure everybody's friendly and wonderful. But if you could kind of take this as an opportunity to talk to somebody maybe that you haven't talked with before, that would make this exercise a lot more fruitful, I think, for you. So if you could pair up, and also everybody will need something to write with. So there's some pens on the table where you came in. If you don't have something to write with, Kathleen has some pens handy. Even if you have one pen that you can share between the two, there will be a lot of I'm going to be a little bit in the way So I wanted to also make sure I said hello to our friends on the webinar. So thank you for joining us. For those of you who are participating on the webinar, there is a link that's listed here on the slide. the implicit bias test that you can take online. There's a variety of tests, religious differences, race and ethnicity, gender. So for webinar folks, you can follow this link for the Harvard implicit bias test. That test while we're doing the interviews, and then when we regroup, the results that you got on the test will be relevant to the discussion that we're going to be having. Everybody in group together, I'm going to hand it to I'm going to sound like a really your control freak for a minute, but it will make the interview go really well. So everybody's going to have a sheet of paper, and it should say 5A on the bottom. And you're going to leave it on that side. And in your period, one of you will choose to be the first interviewer. And there's 4 questions that you're going to ask the person that you're paired with. And the paper is there just for you to jot down anything that seems relevant. So you don't have to write everything they're saying, anything like that. Just if something strikes you and you want to take a note of it, you can write it down on the sheet. When you're done interviewing your partner, so you'll still leave your sheet of paper on your desk. Your partner, who also has the same questions, will then ask you those questions and jot down the answers. When you're done asking each other these questions, raise your hand, and then I'm going to ask you to do the second part of the exercise. Okay? So it takes about 5 minutes per person to answer the 4 questions. Again, decide who's going to interview the other person first, and then when you're both done, just raise your hand. And meanwhile, I'll be going around. If you have any questions, just let me know. One thing I ask, please don't turn it over yet. So I'm going to show it. And remember,
Very practical.
now I have kind of a lot of I have all these branches in my yard, and I'm supposed to take a good thing out of them, and I have so I would probably that would be here.
So let's end this portion of the interactive part of the workshop. I want to thank you all for what sounded like a conversation and a good faith that we had in engaging in this exercise. So for the second part of the exercise, I'd like you to work that in silence. So, what I'm going to ask everybody to do is to turn over their sheet, and on the back is a series of questions about the person you have been. And I would like you to not consult with the person you have that conversation with. And I want you to answer these questions at your ability. And I'd like you to the questions pretty literally in the sense that I'm not looking for metaphorical answers. I'm now being asked to describe this for a legal issue, right? So that you had to give answers that would say satisfy a document, right? Or that you're a witness or something like that. So to the best of your ability, and without complicating your partner, could you please answer these 7 questions? Yeah. I can take these. Unknown is not appropriate. Unknown is not appropriate. So I'm asking you to make an inference. Based on conversation, based on visual data, based on any evidence you have available to you. Would you indicate when you're done with that? Just show here. If both you and your partner are done, could you please, again, without conversation, switch papers, and please grade your partner with a check for what they got correct, and an X for what they got wrong, add up what they got correctly, and return it to your partner with it. Again, just for the purpose of the exercise, to be brief, but just for this part, please do this without conversation. The other one I I'm doing a lot of yeah, I'm asking you still because there's a reason. I'm not trying to get you. Adam, correctly answered. I was just asked a question about what is half right and if we did half of one. Yeah, There are no winners and losers in this. Okay, so if you have graded your partner's answers, could you return it to them? Okay. Okay, now we're going to have some time for some real conversation. So, and I'll explain, or you'll explain to me why I proceeded in the way that. So, before we get into the debrief, let's just by show of hands, how many people got 7 out of 7 with their partner? Raise their hand. About 7 people, and they're about 22. Okay, 1/3. How many got 6 out of 7? Okay, 5 out of 7. I guess it's a 5. Okay. 4 out of 7. 3. Okay. Okay. 2. 1. So 3 was the. So it looks like about 1/3 got all of them right, and then there's some varying degrees. The rest of us between 3 and 6. Okay. So again, thank you for trusting me with this exercise. Let's talk about it. So for those of you who got something wrong about your partner, what was it that you got wrong? Age. Okay. So did you overestimate or underestimate? Underestimate? Did anybody overestimate on age? Okay. So this is consistent with every. Nobody overestimates on age, right? So.
Your form is 5. Category 28.
I should make sure that that's for example. So here are the folks who didn't underestimated age again. Could you just raise your hands for a moment? Okay, so in most cases we had pairings of women, and yours is two men. There's over here. Who's under. So, why do you think that? Well, let me ask you this: those of you who underestimated, did you deliberate for a moment about another age and thought better to go lower? How many people thought that? Yeah, pretty much right. So, again, this is very, very common, right? So why is that? Why do you think when we are unsure, because I put you, so here's the thing, I know that I did something kind of unfair. I put you in a situation first, had a pretty friendly conversation. We walk around and people say things like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'll do this, you guys seem to be having a really positive conversation. And then I asked you to do something that was completely different from that. I asked you to work in silence and guess about the person's properties, of the properties of their identity, right? And not even to consult with them. So I took you from a friendly situation into one where you had to work in isolation and do something that was uncomfortable. I heard when you were passing your answers to your partner saying, I apologize in advance. Because why? Because people feel like that's a comfortable thing to push that paper back and you have to say, oh, I apologize.
Start off by saying, compare yourself to somebody you don't know. If you're with somebody you don't know, other than the conversation you had on the front of this page, you know, I don't know anything about my partner. I actually felt embarrassing about doing this for that reason exactly, you know. But you know, it's just interesting to see what they assume about each other.
Okay. So does it feel a little bit risky to do that?
So
with the age, it's such a faux pas if you over one of these, whereas if you go lower, then it's not as sometimes it's even flattering to go under. So the way that you're going to go under.
What's interesting is because there's someone who looks younger, like I take offense to that, and I actually applaud my partner because he has decades for me, which is something that normally doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it probably was based off of some of the answers of where I saw myself in 10 years.
Okay. Other thoughts?
So I had a different take. Usually you make these assessments when you meet people, but you don't tell them. So it's awkward to tell someone you've made this assessment.
Exactly. And you said something really good, which is make these assessments about people, but we don't have to report them to their face. When you said, I don't know anything about a partner, yes, in terms of her character and her, other aspects of her personality, her goals, but you do know some things, right? Or at least you believe something, right? You believe that she is a she. You believe that she may appear to you to be the right. Right? When the kinds of conversations that I ask you to engage in on the front of the sheet are the sorts of things that might come up at work with people, right? People will talk about their holidays, they'll talk about their hopes, they'll talk about maybe fun that they have that weekend, right? And so these kinds of things come up in conversation, and we're getting information that the person is giving us, but we're also drawing inferences. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing that we have the ability to draw inferences from evidence. It's a critical piece of our philosophy, right? But don't offer when there are people part of our hidden evidence. Underestimation of age, the point of this related to mortality. Many people try to underestimate for just like that. It's more flattering to people.
You're not to ask a person their age.
A woman.
A woman especially.
Right. And that's just when someone else you.
Yeah, I'm saying culturally, at least, you're not supposed to talk about age, particularly asking a woman about
and that's, we're talking about kind of politeness. But what is the inference in that is I think that to be older than negative. It's more likely to be younger. However, we get a report from somebody who is in a position of leadership, project manager, on a variety, and is saying, I don't always appreciate when people think I'm younger than I am because part of the work that I do requires that I have authority. And there is an authority with age. But as you appear older to people, the message, particularly I think, but also for men, but it's certainly to a greater extent for women, that assuming one is older is going to be an insult, rather than an aspect of her authority.
I was just going to add that one of the things that I thought you showed in this exercise is confirming someone's age. Because there's a lot of people that go in my office that we all look similar, and people maybe don't know that I have 5 years more experience than someone else. So I'm thinking of like, what can I bring to the table or what can I do? And they're just like, oh, this person's on the same level as you. And I'm like, actually, no. So there's like that confirmation that you're getting that your visual isn't what telling you what this person is
without getting that confirmation. And that goes to the point of we don't ordinarily report it. So we don't get the opportunity to confirm or disconfirm. And we operate with these inferences and assumptions, but it's impolite to tell them, but we're also not getting evidence. What else do people get wrong about their partner? Religion. So what did you guess in your partner disconfirm? Not, oh, yeah.
I assume Christian, but non-denominational.
Okay, and what it turned out to be?
She's an atheist.
Okay. So, what led you to that inference? I forced you to guess.
Yes.
So, yes, Christian, non-denominational.
That just felt like the safest. There was nothing that specifically led me towards Christian, but non-denominational. I assumed she was in her early 20s, and that was pretty safe.
How does the age factor?
A lot of people, when they're 20s, are drawing away from affiliating with a specific religion. They might say Christian or a certain, like, broad base, but nothing very specific. There are fewer people going to church. So I felt non-denominational.
And how did you arrive at that?
I felt like she had more of like a free spirit, and seemed to me to be a very non-judgmental person, and probably put it up with affiliated with non-denominational. That's a little more accepting of different.
Because denominational is a bit more judgy?
Yeah. Exclusive.
And how did you come to the conclusion that most people in their late 20s are less religious, maybe, or less affiliated with a denomination?
Just my experience from most people that speak to me about this.
There's definitely a lot more non-denominational people, and also about holidays.
And statistically, you said most.
I think there's, not that. I think on the Northeast there's statistically a growth in non-denominational churches.
In the Northeast. It's really different in the South. It's really different in the West. Right? So thank you. So, in hearing their reporting out, right? So my experience, this is true. I want to make sure that you all are clear that your experience matters very much. Right? It's where you start. Our first-hand experience is the most reliable source that we have to start thinking critically, start thinking logically, right? So if you've witnessed something, that's confirmation for it. So it's important that we don't want to argue about their first-hand experiences, right? We've done some things that are not so great about moving people away from their first-hand experiences. Just to give you a quick example, I was observing an elementary school in Detroit, and the teacher was prepping the kids for a standardized test, state standardized test, and she said, what do squirrels eat? And a boy in the class raised his hand and said, squirrels eat Big Macs. And people giggled in the class, and the teacher said, no, I mean, what do squirrels really eat? And he said, squirrels really eat Big Macs. I saw a squirrel in the dumpster behind Big Macs, behind McDonald's, eating a Big Mac. And she said, well, that was unusual. What's a squirrel's natural habitat? And some of the kids in the class are coming around saying, it's a forest, and they eat nuts, and they say, they hoard nuts and stuff. And the boy, as I witnessed it, sort of tuned out again, right? Because he got a really message about critical thinking. The message he got was your own first-hand experience is not relevant here. Now, why? Was the teacher being horrible and doing this on purpose? No. He's preparing them for a standardized test. And in standardized tests, when it asks about squirrels' habitat, the kind of information they're looking for is a wooded area with nuts and that kind of thing, which the other kids in the class did, who were all sitting. They only do it because some of them have read stories about squirrels, right? And there's a kind of stereotype about what squirrels are. But in fact, which I did after this class, I did some research on squirrels, and squirrels are just scavengers, wherever they are. There's urban scavengers, they're rural scavengers, they are in cities, as many of you probably know, from living and working in a city. Squirrels are everywhere. So to say that their natural habitat is woodland and that they eat nuts is to deny the experience. And I think that's a problem that a lot of kids get in school when we're trying to teach to a particular kind of standard or stereotype. The first-hand experience matters, right? I don't want to say that it doesn't, it's really important, but it's also your own firsthand experience and your own sort of regional and local or the experiences you have. And implicit bias can operate because we take our experiences to be all experience, well, all valid experiences. And it's very understandable that we begin from our experience because we want to teach people to trust their firsthand observation in our experiences, but not to treat them or not to critically reflect them, to be able to see the limits of your lens. And if your lens feels normal, but our lenses have some limits. So what else do people get wrong in terms of religion? Oh, right there. So race. So what was your guess and what was your partner's?
Well, I guess she's African American. Actually, I was a little confused because when we talked about French Dominican, so then I wasn't sure. Not all black people are African. But as it turns out, Native American. So I would have been wrong.
Right. Well, great. Again, thank you for sharing your thinking processes.
Well, actually, I'm multiracial. I'm Native American and white. And I guess I just generalized because I wasn't sure what Asian American is out.
And that's how you would identify. Okay. So a couple of things that were going on and how they're reporting it. So based on appearances, you're thinking African American. Heard talking about her best friend's Dominican. That's a difference that we might make. People kind of have a lot with people who might share their identities. We self-segregate, not because we're horrible people, but because we're comfortable often with people who look like us or people who have our values. Again, not everybody. And asking not to go right away in the minds of me, because I'm sure that you have to work and interact with people who you often hang out with people who have similar values or similar experiences. So that's why you might think your best friend might share your identity, right? And then as a neighbor herself, she's actually an administrator. And that's tricky for, I think, us culturally because we identify people monolithically as having a single race identity or a single ethnic identity. And for folks who are multiracial or biracial, who have parents, well, parents is white, parents is black, for instance, right? You have both of those experiences as your parents, but you may be perceived by other people to be one or the other, and that is a way of collapsing aspects of your identity, right? Imagine, for those of you who are not this race, that people only saw you as being a part of your mother, and your mother was completely out of the story, right? That's half your parents, right? That's important part of who you are. So in the way that we often talk about race, it's very siloed, right? So it makes people who have multiracial and biracial identities deal with the fact that they get treated as having sort of. What else do people get wrong?
I was just going to say that I got the race correct.
Okay, that was what you guys have to
yeah. I had education, but for some reason in my mind, she also somebody that Hispanic. So I wrote it down on the sheet, not necessarily thinking she was Hispanic, but it was safer to add an additional race than trying to put her in one bucket. Backfired, obviously, but.
I was afraid that was not correct.
Yeah, I was incorrect. I didn't hesitate.
But I didn't tell you which one was right.
No. This is even more revealing. Okay.
Thank you so much. Again, to your teaching classes where somebody I knew, you reminded me of somebody that I knew who was Hispanic, right? We go to our experiences in important ways. but often in ways that are not conscious, right? They're sort of operating at a level of inference. We're taking in lots of information about this right now that we're not consciously taking in, right? How many people are here in the room, or whether or not they join us or not, the temperature, but we're not necessarily consciously focused on all of that. And similarly, if we do that, then we're making estimations about the people we're interacting with. Again, we're hardwired in many ways to stereotype. And that sounds like a terrible word, but it's critical for language learning. We would not learn the simple terms dog and cat if we didn't stereotype by the time we were 3 years old. Because we see lots of different kinds of dogs, but language acquisition data shows that by 3 years old, children who grow up in whatever language they grow up in can categorize cat and dog really clearly, even though they're very different. And if they had to fix every instance of, they thought a German Shepherd and a Chihuahua, and they couldn't make that connection, they would have lots of trouble with language learning. So, stereotypes, we call it cognitive categorization, so that doesn't sound as loaded, but actually it's stereotyping. And we do that with people all the time as children. We're learning how to become children, boys on this side, girls on this side, right? And we're teaching kids how to categorize.
I thought other than asking for gender, a person was asking for sexual persuasion. But I have found that issue really fascinating because a lot of times I have a sense of that, but every time I'm going to say something and they clearly are making a statement, but I try not to like that, and they'll say, oh yeah, that's a photo of my husband and I, and it's a man speaking, and I'll just nod and I'll just go with it, but I'll think later, I'll go, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even aware of that. And I try not to make a deal out of it because I don't think it should be a deal. But I find that fascinating in a way when someone is in that situation, how they show themselves, how they reveal themselves. Because that guy is pretty.
Absolutely. Yeah,
in our society.
Right, absolutely. That's a great point. One of them is gay, and he talks about how long it took for him to trust the people he worked with before he could start putting photographs of him and his boyfriend, and his boyfriend didn't stay longer than I did with her husband. And it took him a while to trust the environment he was at work to sort of put pictures up or to talk about dinner over the weekend and mention his boyfriend. So there's trust in people revealing that to you. So part of the kind of culture you work in. So he was working in finance, it was a lot more conservative, there was a lot less openness about gay marriage, and so you have to sort of build that trust up.
I think that's interesting because I had, I grew up and I thought how hard it must have been for any of my friends that were gay to come. They all came out after college, right? And if you knew them in college, then you go back and just was so unfair that they had this whole time in their life that they should be expressing themselves and they couldn't. So I have older kids that I always grew up, saying, well, when you were your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and I always tried to keep those because I didn't want to put anything on my kids. And I think that when my 9th grade son would say, and I'm not gay. I just thought it was funny because in his mind, I was trying to project openness, and in his mind, I was putting something else on. So.
Right. Right. Wow, that is related to that question, so there are some things I did not put on this list of 7 questions. So I didn't put sexual orientation on here. What else is not on here to ask about people's identity? How much they make? American history. Right, yeah. How much they make? Are you married? Your political affiliation? Your education level? Disability? Right, so this group might not very much, right? So let me say this. I really am sincerely grateful that you participated in the exercise because there was a certain amount of risk that was involved in this. I think there's a certain amount of risk in passing that paper back. And I heard people say, I'm sorry to say. But I do use as what would be, I think, a level of risk that would be too high for yourself and the individual people that you're partnering with. So why? Why those kinds of categorizations? Vary. So political affiliation, disability. Why? Yeah, so why an exercise like this where I'm not testing that?
All of these things are questions that you would answer in a statistical form. And those could be too, but this is kind of like sign up for an account, sign up for an email. Like they're not controversial, they're not too personal. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think there's some risk involved in having to guess them.
A lot of these, for the most part, you can make an inference based on someone's appearance, more so than sexual orientation, political affiliation, the other that were suggested. But a lot of these, you can kind of look at someone and in your mind, your ears are going to start getting like category.
Right.
I feel like most of these, you can't debate. You can't talk somebody out of their age, their race, whether they're female, in politics and even orientation. People can say, are you sure? You know, there's things that could more than these issues.
Right.
Yeah, other than religious or spiritual, other than religious or spiritual affiliation, it's the deal you were dealt.
Right. Some of those others have that property as well. What I didn't want you to do was to guess incorrectly. I don't want you guessing about people's disabilities, right? I would be responsible to do in that situation. I think marriage is a tricky one. Again, depending on who you are, I think it's tricky for people who work together, right? So I don't want people to have to, I don't want people to say, I'm guessing you're unmarried, right? Because there's some stigma associated with it. If you go both ways, education level here is not going to another place that can, certainly, and political affiliation, I don't want people guessing at that right now, particularly it's pretty decided. So there are things I didn't include by trying to make an estimation of what would provide some risk and some opportunities for you to think about how to draw the differences, but not so much that you put somebody in a difficult position. But even still, I think the things on this list are things that we don't, as people have said, we don't confirm and disconfirm necessarily with people outwardly, but they are operating within our belief system. So far so good? So this is just a short kind of opportunity to start thinking about how we draw inferences. The little thing I want us to take away after this exercise of debrief is that it is not even is this not just a morally bad thing differences about identity, but it's an essential feature of our cognitive processing. Right? It's we like data. We're good at it. It's something we inherited from our ancestors. We have brains that organize, and many of us are really good organizers, right? Taking in data and organizing it in different ways. So the question is, though, what are we organizing at an unconscious level that may be affecting how we make decisions and judgments about what we do? So let me continue on. So what we're talking about in this exercise was social identity. So they include these kinds of properties that are on the left-hand side. We've got some of them. One of the really interesting and I think exciting things in this theory right now is that we've moved away from thinking about identities as a cumulative ordinance, right? So that you can add identities, back certain identities, and rather that we think about identities intersectionally. And this actually comes out of the work of black feminist theory. So the pioneer in this work is Patricia Hill Collins, a sociologist at the University of Maryland, as well as Kimberly Crenshaw, legal professor. And both of them worked through this idea of an intersectional identity because fear, and as Black women, they recognize, both in a legal sense and a sociological sense, that there are issues of affected women in the United States, issues that affected Black men in the United States. But they occupy this kind of intersectional identity and experience racism and sexism in ways that were unique to Black women. So, for instance, when many feminists in the 1950s and 70s were saying, we need to get out of the kitchen into the workforce, many Black women were saying, we've been in your kitchens. We've been working, and being in the labor force has not necessarily given us great advantage, right? So it's not our issue. Or many white feminists were saying the church, the Christian church, is an oppressive institution. Many Black women were saying, that is my place of liberation, right? That's where I organize socially. So I don't have the same relationship that you have to the Christian church. And then for Black men who were arguing about racist practices and seeking landowning voting rights, Black women weren't excluded. So both of them kind of separately and then collectively developed the idea of intersectionality. So it started with the experiences of Black women, but everyone can learn and understand their own identity in a more effective way. When I teach this to my students, some of my male students say, wait, we're starting with theory from Black women's perspective? And I say, yeah, and we just finished doing Rousseau and Locke, and that's starting from property-owning white men. But there's still some great universal ideas in there, right? So we always start from positionality, right? It's just that the positionality of white property-owning men in U.S. history has centered and been sort of invisible. So yeah, something to learn from kinds of experiences. We've heard historically in philosophy and in theory generally sort of perspectives that came from people who had to be in the marketplace and generally were from pretty bad. So there's still great important ideas, but it doesn't mean that if you're not a Black woman, that intersectionality as a theory is not important as a framing for your experiences. So the idea that social systems of privilege, poverty, and culture intersect to create complex lived experiences. So for instance, if we talk about the advantages that white men have had in the United States, those advantages do not apply to working class white men. They do to them as well. They don't apply to gay men in the same way that they do and more heterosexual, right? Our positionality is complex. So when we talk about all white people, or all Black people, or all Christians, that fails to take into account the other aspects of our identity. So it's a much more nuanced and interesting and complex way of thinking about identity. And I found in when I was teaching that it moves us away from guilt and blame to thinking about coalition. We have more in common with other people who think about identity in more complex ways. The second is that social identity is relational. So it's not simply how you see yourself, it's also how others perceive you. So if you're somebody who's mixed race or biracial, you may see yourself one way, and other people will find you in a different way. So I think the idea that you're a woman on this field and you just want to be judged on your work, and you think, I don't even know my own femininity, I'm just an architect, right? Well, but other people, they do, and they draw conclusions in the way in which people treat you is also part of your identity, right? If you don't get the opportunity to correct them on some of their impressions or to report back on it because those conversations are so volatile. So we don't just choose our identity, they're also choosing. And when you're in a vulnerable population, right, socioeconomically, you're a minority and majority, those identities often, you have either less choice about how you're perceived. So what we're talking about is implicit bias. There is implicit bias test that the webinar folks were doing while you guys were doing interviews. And it was developed by two cognitive theorists, one at Harvard and one at the University of Washington. And this is a global test, so it's online. The more people who take it, the more data they get. And I think at this point, it's close to like 600,000 people have taken it. It's not one single test, too. There's You could choose once you go to the link. You can click on religion, race, ethnicity, age, ability, disability. And the test gives you a sense of where you may have preferences that you're not consciously aware of. So it measures attitudes and beliefs that people may be unwilling or unable to report. If you take a test that's anonymous, the data helps to get it. And in there was a business case. There was an article where in the workplace, the most effective use of time and resources may be directly addressing implicit and its consequences of unconsciously excluding and ostracizing others. And between my original date for this presentation and this one, there was a big case with Starbucks. Right? So Starbucks is now engaging in implicit bias training of their baristas who kicked out 2 guys who were waiting to be someone for real estate kind of use.
How do you decide which test you should take? Because my attitude is you should take all of them because you probably are almost aware of some of them, But about if you took one, you didn't get that.
Yeah, the more the better. We want the better. If you have some issues in your workplace, it might be a good idea for you to take the test or to recommend that other people take the test. I didn't take whether or not they want to share their report. A lot of people are surprised by their reports. I work in a community that has a Muslim population, and so students who are not Muslim will report like, oh, I didn't have such a negative Muslim. But they realize, oh, actually I know a lot of people who are Muslim, and I guess a lot of other people. And it's that awareness of perhaps by my lack of a bias in a particular area is a reflection of who I work with. So you can make decisions about where it's up to you, I think, but maybe knowing more about some of the issues you might be facing professionally could be relevant. So, what are some of the conclusions that people who are studying implicit bias are forming, why they might be important and useful for all of you and the work that you do? The first thing is that colorblindness is not real, nor is it necessarily a good thing. So people say I'm colorblind. It's like saying I don't see that you have like, no, of course. And it doesn't have to be like gender, right? And that doesn't mean you're always right. But to say I strive to judge people purely on their character, that's great, but we are not there yet at all, right? We organize around race, ethnicity, identity, gender, sexual orientation. Politics are vitally pervasive in there. So IAT and Implicit Association has here say it begins by recognizing that we are making these judgments. The second is to remember that we have inherited a lot of these systems of social privilege and disadvantage, even if we did not create them. So I think though we may have differences and though we may be striving to do better, remember we inherited them. We inherited these social systems and structures, right? The U.S. has a racist history, a sexist history, a history of being inclusive, and we've inherited it, like highways, okay? And all of you folks think a lot about design and organization and frustration with design, right? So we inherited them, and we travel on these paths. So if we want to make them better, we have to identify what's so limiting about them. If we pretend that they're not there, it's not going to be conducive to reorienting them. And it's the composition of them too. It's easier to say, I'm just not even going to talk about it. It's better to not talk about it, or I'm not going to see how it's operating in my organization. Number 2, social privilege. So there are social privilege differences. Race, ethnicity, Christians versus Muslims, people who are straight and people who are gay, right? There's for those people with social privilege, meaning specifically the social property value, whether it's your race, your ethnicity, your identity, however it intersects, doesn't feel like privilege, right? A lot of my white male students say, my life is really hard, right? And it is, right? I'm dealing with, work and school, and my mom has cancer, and I don't feel like I have all these privileges. Well, they're right. They don't have privileges in the sense that their lives are hard, but they do have privileges that are hard for them to see. That, for instance, if they're looking to buy in a certain neighborhood in the Detroit suburbs, their race is not a factor in how their neighbors are perceiving them, right? I have Black students who have children. Yeah, I moved into a better neighborhood at last, and my son has to run in the neighborhood because I'm afraid we're the only Black family on the block, and I think if they see a 13-year-old running, they're going to think they're going to report it, right? And if that's not a fear that you have about your kids, it is a fear that lots of minority folks have. So social privilege is often visible to people who have it. People who are straight don't go around thinking like, hey, I'm straight, high five, it's so great. No, you're thinking like, oh, I did this, I did that. But, like, he definitely with my brother, I didn't think about the fact that I had to, that I couldn't pay me and my husband up in my office, right? That's what I'm thinking about. That's an obstacle in a way that I didn't notice. Remember that social privileges are not the same thing as happiness. And also people who face social disadvantages, it doesn't mean that they're personally unhappy, right? If we think about things like sexual orientation or religion and social disadvantages, it doesn't mean that the people experiencing some of these obstacles are like less of that. If they have a great network of friends, personally they may have happiness, structural obstacles that are getting in their way, systemic obstacles. And finally, our identities are intersectional, and that means that we do not experience privilege and disadvantage simply absolutely. Our identities are complex, and so are the citizens. So you might have experienced social privilege in a particular way in terms of your education, but then not in terms of your race or ethnicity, right? If people don't know that you've got your identity and they have a fight against somebody of your particular race or identity, your degree is not going to help in some situations. The Harvard professor who's going into his own the neighbor's call, right? Skip days, years on it, because people thought he was breaking into a home. So his privilege, his education privilege, didn't help him in that particular situation because of how he was perceived by others. And that works for a lot of our identities. So here's a few images that I thought might help us to some of these ideas. So one of the things I've been trying to say is that we identify and evaluate others through the lens of our own values, experiences, and biases. And what about this cartoon particularly is both of these women are looking at each other, and how sad, right? Everything covered with her eyes with a cruel male-dominated culture, and the other woman saying nothing covered by her eyes with a cruel male-dominated culture. Again, I work with a lot of students who are Muslim, some who wear their hijab, and they get this. A lot of my students who are not look at it and say, no, the woman's cover is so crap, right? And women who cover will say, I have decisions about whether or not I cover. I'm Saudi Arabia, I came here for a particular religious freedom, and I feel informed to certain kinds of ideas of male beauty. I'm very comfortable with it. Sometimes I feel badly for someone who feel that they have to wear uncomfortable clothes or to make up in particular ways so that they're acceptable, right? The point of this is that neither of these two are wrong in a way. And in fact, there's a coalition around gender that they could both work on. But it's very hard to get those folks talking to each other, particularly for her to come to her, right? Because the majority culture will support the idea that freedom is in the community, right? If it is a choice, and if we respect religious freedom, then there's opportunity for coalition, right? What is your choice in how you work with other people? We also evaluate and judge others' stuff, according to their own values, experiences, and biases. This is a really important one, particularly in the medical field, because there is lots of evidence that physicians across the board underestimate the suffering of people in minorities. So what I think is interesting about this image, so the Titanic, 9/11, never forget, the Holocaust, never forget. About when Black Americans talk about slavery, it's like, come on, that's so long ago, get over it. It was 400 years of pain, suffering, and violence, right? When Black Lives Matter activists say, we need to remind you that Black Lives Matter, and lots of people who say all lives matter, are failing to recognize that there is an experience within that many people in the Black community have that you have not taken into that history. Yes, those events matter too, but why is the history that we experience, why is that one that we're supposed to get over? Why do we have to get it? And again, not because people are being so horrible, they're just saying, that's not something we have to take account of right now, because I don't see that, that's too so long ago. Some of these other things long ago too. We don't put a time limit on suffering, especially alternatives that are accountable to it. I think this is also an important reminder for people in majority, like at least until 2042, white Americans will be the majority. Demographic data shows that they won't have 20. It doesn't mean that everybody else will be one other, with their identity. But white Americans are the majority in the U.S. Oftentimes, with social privilege, whether it's race or sexual orientation or gender, we fail to recognize it. Privilege is often invisible to those who have it. The philosopher Heidegger said, we don't notice the practice in the sidewalk until we trip over them. Meaning, if things are working for us, we know that something's broken. And so, I think white people are surprised sometimes to hear that people who are not white say, you guys all look alike, right? Because many people in minority communities experience that a lot from people in the minority communities. So we want to be aware of how we are perceived by other outside communities and identities that we belong to. And yet, I want to say, on a positive, I think all of this is positive because it's self-understanding. But an awareness of structural and systemic access can benefit everyone. When we move to thinking more inclusively, I love this image. This is something a teacher shared with the class. But there's snow on the ramp, and the boy in the wheelchair says, could you go on the ramp? And the custodian says, all these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I'll clear the ramp for you. And the boy in the wheelchair says, but if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in, right? It's more, when we make something accessible, we make it accessible to everyone. Maternity benefits, right? Those were seen as a special privilege. There are many cases where maternity privilege is just things that are going to help women. Well, it's really just family members believe that. And they find out that people who are adopting children, people who are taking care of children. What maternity benefits did was change the idea of a worker as an individual without any family responsibility into the idea that workers are people with relationships. There's lots of cases where what we call special rights actually created more rights, more human rights for many people. So, in terms of what could we do on our own, recognize that social identities matter and make up part of our belief system. Pay attention to the biases that steer you away from judging others as less credible or less of a team player. That's a big indicator. I think that's a really important area. When you judge somebody, this person's not really a team player. Now, they might not be a team player, but what I think you need to do first, where you can make that judgment, is could it be the case that I'm comfortable with that, not that they are problematic. Understand that some identities are complex and intersectional, so nobody is completely advantaged or disadvantaged. People face different kinds of issues in their lives. Kind of saying that, be kind to people because you don't know what they're dealing with, right? There's an emergency room. Everybody's got something going on. A certain amount of empathy and understanding that people are struggling with things, even you. Remember that social privilege and disadvantage are not the same as personal happiness and unhappiness. Going to being an ally and using your privilege for good. One of the best things we can do when we are in positions of social privilege is to use our voice to advocate for ourselves and keep calling on people who face social disadvantage. Right? When the people who are straight, for people who are LGBT, it lightens the load, it lightens the burden. When white people fight for issues that matter to Black Americans, sharing the burden, that doesn't mean you take over the movement, right? But how can you be an ally? How can you bring the burden to the struggling within the organization that you're in? And also be open to having allies. be open to the possibility that people may want to work with you to support you in the initiatives that, and that you're going to have to maybe do some teaching of that, but an openness, for instance, in something like this, shows a real interest and openness in who makes the organization more accessible. So what could you do with this? I think one is you can think about creating an environment in which people feel safe to express culturally based values, perceptions, and experiences. That these conversations are okay to have. That we can figure out what about each other and learn more about each other's experiences. Host social events at which music and entertainment reflect the cultures of the people who are represented. Right? Hire staff and leaders who reflect the community's cultural diversity. Right? Place-based hiring and understanding the people you work in and working with community organizations are such an important way for you to make your organization more inclusive. And partner with cultural institutions and with business, right? And partner in the way that you are coming to community organizations to learn. So I had an example last semester with I said, we want to do something for the homeless population in Detroit. And we have this great idea. We're going to collect mittens. And then we're going to give them to this homeless shelter. And this is learning, so I wasn't supposed to interfere too much with staff. But I said, you're sure you want to do the mittens? Absolutely. We think it's going to be great. Because mitten safe, and we're going to make these mitten trees, and people can put their mittens on it, and they have an idea. And they did the mitten campaign at the end. I said, there's a shelter, huh? Have you called the shelter? No, we didn't call them yet. Okay, maybe we should call them and see if they need mittens. They call the shelter, we do not need mittens, we do not need any clothing right now. Actually, if you have shoes that would be business appropriate, we need some shoes. So, another mittens. And the director of the shelter invited us to come and see what's going on at the shelter. And students were shocked because the shelter had job training, it had developing interviewing skills. It had a lot of clothes. It had a lot of services, right? It had a mentoring program. So their idea was the shelter is a place with beds on the floor and people who are like wearing rags who need everything. No, there were people who were housing insecure. There were people who were temporarily homeless. And the work that was going on there was about job development. So partnering with the community means that you learn from the work that they do and then see what you can do to support it. Not like, I pretty much know what they call everything. No. A lot of community organizations have been doing this work for a long time and they know their communities well. And we can learn a lot, I think, at our university, for instance. I think the businesses and organizations that you're part of can learn a lot from our community partners. So that is it. Thank you. So I wanted to finish at 8:15, but we have some time if you just want to have a few minutes for questions.
When you see bias going on in the workplace, and you expect it, should you intervene?
Great question.
And how do you do that? Do you do it through demonstrating, or do you call it out?
Great question. If you see bias going on, do you say something, do you call it out, and how should you do it? So since we have having had to do this, yeah, have you had to call someone out when you saw what's going on? Okay.
This just happened on Tuesday. We had an architecture section. Supervisor is an Asian background, probably early 60s. With one African American guy who's also in his early 60s. He's civil engineer. He works in a food. We had two younger women on the table in the architect. One Asian woman who was a landscape architect and an architect in the 60s. And we were going on a field trip. And I know that the African American guy is always left out of our group. And he doesn't report directly to our supervisor, as opposed to another person. And I came in with this idea that we had to take cars on our all-day field trip, and I knew if he was keen on in the same car, we'd know each other the longest. But the newer people socialize with him, supervise him, never socialize with him. So I suggested that I drive a car and he drive a car and the supervisor switch. And my supervisor was late, so I couldn't bring it up to her attention before I brought it up to other staff people. And they said, well, why do you want to do that? And I said, because he's always excluded. And she said, well, did you say that? And I said, no, it's obvious. And she sort of, nodded, okay, we'll see. But that person had already turned up the car. So I took the other car and sort of said, I hope this will happen. And I mentioned it to the second person. But it didn't happen. And the supervisor drove the car and stayed in the car with the two people that she drives them all the time. So it was meant to be an event where we all mixed as teams. And it happened a little bit, but the point was to really show a little bit more diversity in how
So thank you for sharing that. And so what you're reporting is a passive least resistance, right? So there was a way in which the team was organized. You saw that there was someone who was being marginalized, and you wanted to try to change that passive least resistance. You did it by saying, no, he didn't say it, I noticed it, right? Because he's at risk. If the perception is he's making it about race, right? That's always the for a woman who has been sexually harassed and people try to put it in an organization, oh, she's making it about gender, right? She's doing making it about being a woman. When people have faced social marginalization, that's often the way in which passive least resistance gets perpetuated. Our first response is they're not credible. They're playing just this card or that card, right? But it's harder to change the structure of the system. It's very strange because we don't do that in the people claim. Credibility is our communication. If I say to you, you know what I would say, guy's dirty, I don't say, really? You prove that to me? You know, if you miss a meeting, you say to a coworker, what did I miss? And they say, oh, we covered blah. You don't say, really? Prove that to me, right? Because you don't have a jerk for doing that, right? But we do that when people report about social obstacles. Again, some people might be playing the race card, but if we actually look at the data, the research shows that is a tiny percentage of the reports. Because people take risks. They know that they're going to be perceived in a negative way. So you minimize his risk because he didn't report it and you took the responsibility for that. So you really did try to create a structural change there, but the passive least resistance wound up sort of kind of winning out. Yeah, the status quo. So I think the move you made was a great one. And it's an example for the ways in which we can notice things and try to the structural features. But you have to kind of keep doing things like that. Sorry.
I just wanted to say that just by you doing that, hopefully the next time that situations come up with that the person that you interacted with will think of what you said or think of the situation. So even though it didn't go the way you wanted it to go this time, at least you put it in their mind or something for them to think about in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pattern of those kinds of behaviors that can make a difference.
I'm curious, there was a phrase that you used on some slide, I couldn't tell you which one, but the phrase was working class white men. And it's the working class that I'm wondering who that would include. Like I think I am, but maybe I'm not. Maybe you didn't mean it, or maybe so.
Or I think you are. Or maybe that's your identity that was part of your identity too. So generally, working class. So that's many people need us to identify as working class because everybody's aspirational. They're always going to that work piece that's in the story for a while. We're really getting better. The working class white men that, for instance, I work with in the Detroit metropolitan area see themselves as they're blue collar. College is a reluctant thing that they have to, and that's very pricey. And but they have to do it if they're going to get any opportunity for economic advancement. But their identity is not in necessarily in the middle class, and it's often the work that they're doing, right? That they have a history with like manual labor or skilled trades. So there are men who identify as or part of the white working class who are plumbers, maybe more than some of you, right? It's not necessarily economic identity, but it's generally not having a college education and generally being in a socioeconomic status that doesn't require advanced education or professional training. So do you think, I think we need a better word. Well, because I'm working, and you seem to make that
we're all working.
Yeah, so you do that, right? It doesn't mean just pray. Just working. But I think college use working class or labor class as a term economic strata to it, and generally not just not having an advanced higher education, post-secondary education.
I thought it was when you introduced yourself, you also mentioned that you had something that you said was communication-based, or right communication, open communication, or what was that? Talking about like how to talk about difficult things.
Oh, right. One of the one of the papers that one of the workshops I think that was referenced was dismanaging difficult dialogue.
I think that's super interesting because I believe that it's only through the difficult dialogues that we're going to get anywhere, and people are so reluctant to have them. And I just thought maybe you could give us some stage advice on how to create a place where people are comfortable having them. People are so comfortable first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the focus tonight is more on how we can sort of begin with ourselves to think about some of this, but then how we then raise the conversation. The reason those dialogues are so difficult, especially for well-intentioned people, which is what we all are here, is that you don't want to screw up, right? Because the stakes are so high. If I say something that I'm judged to be racist or sexist, then that's how I'm going to be. So I don't want to make mistakes. We have ratcheted up the risks of these kinds of things that are so high that makes it so difficult for us to talk about. So one thing is, how do we reduce the stakes, right? How do we express our inferences, describe our inferences without it being a case judged so negatively? So one of the things that has been an effective tool in group work on difficult dialogue is to begin by lowering the stakes and saying, what is our common ground? Let's start with our common ground. So, for instance, your common ground here is that you're in the architects, right? Your common ground right now is you come here as learners. So that's really important. So no matter what our goals are, we're here as learners, right? And as learners, we're going to make mistakes that we're not going to know right, right? So we have to ask as learners that people do not judge somebody for making a mistake about your identity. That they have one and done, that there's one shot at it, and if they get it wrong, they're done, right? So that's a commitment we make to each other, right? We're going to make some mistakes about our identity. I might say things that are wrong, but I'm here as a learner first. So how, as a learner, better at this, right? So there's ways we can set ground rules for those conversations to begin that way, where, people have to participate, but generally you're there to sort of, let's go to this meeting to thinking about difficult dialogue. One of the first things we're going to have to do is recognize that none of us are perfect on everything. I tell my students all the time, I'm always learning, right? And we know has it right. Obama gave this incredible speech about race on it was in Philadelphia, and people on the right said this is one of the best descriptions of race relations in the United States. It's really eloquent. It's a really beautiful speech. It was right before he was elected. Right after he was elected, he was on the Jay Leno show, and Jay Leno asked him, have you used the bowling alley yet in the White House? You're basically the bowling alley. And President Obama said, I did use it. And Leno said, how was it? He said, Michelle was laughing because it was like Special Olympics. Right? Gave this beautiful, nuanced, brilliant speech about race, and then said this thing about disability. That immediately, the next day, lots of folks in the American Disability Association and connected to Special Olympics. Now, what happened was his press person came out and said, President Obama, of course, said a terrible thing, has racist sex. And I think what would have been better maybe is to say, personally, maybe, I have a really good nuanced analysis of race, but disability wasn't on my radar in the same way. And I really said something insensitive and stupid. And I'm learning that, right? If we treated our states like that, instead of pulling back and saying, I'm a green member, and just being humiliated, I don't think that President Obama has a negative animus towards this table. I think it was an unguarded moment, and he said something that was not on his radar. We all do it. If you're great on race, you might not be great on disability. So I think establishing that mutually as a team, as a group, in a way that we can learn from each other, might help. All right, I should probably let you go now because we need to go to work tomorrow. Thank you so much.